Welcome to This Place. Each week we ask Oregonians about the places that matter to them, where they live, where they work, and where they find meaning and joy. This week we hear from Michael Parker in the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument.
We're at the Parsnip Lakes in the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument. Parsnip Lakes are a series of sag ponds. Actually, on this side of the ridge, they're beaver-created ponds on this little spring that flows off the mountainside. And there's a series of beaver ponds that were built probably centuries ago. And so they're like beads on a string as you go down this little spring brook towards Keene Creek. It's a very flat, cattail-dominated marsh surrounded by conifer forest. My main reason for coming here is the Oregon spotted frog. It's probably the most endangered amphibian in the western United States. And the reason is because it's so highly aquatic and it really relies on these kinds of systems, sort of beaver ponds, wetland areas. It's the most aquatic of the western frogs. And so it requires open water. It moves around in the water. You don't see it very far from the water in most situations. So it's really tightly linked to the water, which means it's tightly linked to beavers and beaver habitat. So I stumbled across these ponds back in the mid-1990s. I was doing some surveys with the BLM prior to the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument. This was then called the Cascade-Siskiyou Ecological Emphasis Area. And I got a little contract with the BLM to survey the streams that sort of flowed off this ridge down into the Klamath and the road. And so I spent 2 summers, glorious summers, walking from the headwaters to the mouths of every stream that drains the Cascade, what's now the Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument. And I came across this place. And when I first got here, a colleague of mine said, there's this Oregon spotted frog. It was last seen in the early 1970s. There were a couple specimens in the collection at SOU's museum. Nobody's seen them in 25 years. Started looking every spring for spotted frogs and had no luck. We thought that they had gone extinct. But as I was doing those surveys for the BLM, I stumbled across the Parsnip Lakes. Here they are, embedded in this forest that's been heavily managed, but still an active beaver colony in these ponds, maintaining them. And the World Wildlife Fund asked me to write a little article about the aquatic resources and what could become the monument. And so I very boldly predicted that there are places in what could become the monument that still have these remnant populations of these rare amphibians, like the Oregon spotted frog. I said that, but I don't know that they're there. They could be. It's the right habitat. So the next spring, I came up here with my herpetology class, and we're at one of the upper ponds, and one of the students looks out and goes, "That frog doesn't look anything like the tree frogs we've been seeing." So I reached down and pulled it up, and there was a juvenile Oregon spotted frog. And then we found egg masses, and that was in 2003. And so I've been coming up here every year since, keeping my finger on the pulse of that population of spotted frogs and trying to do conservation work here so that they persist. It's not one of those places that is exceptionally beautiful, like, people sense when they're high in the mountains. I would say it's that it's just how the system functions, the organisms that are here, the overall setting. It's very peaceful. I come up here and work, and I don't see other people. I'm just sort of here in this place. And as an ecologist, I seek those places out. I'm an ecologist for a reason. I get to be in places like this.
That was Michael Parker near Green Springs. This Place is produced by Oregon Humanities and edited by John Richardson. To hear more stories from This Place, visit OregonHumanities.org or subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.